we got Sonny Styles, and for I can't tell you how many reasons why we liked him, but it's you can go on and on about him, and we're thrilled to have him. And so to pick Sonny Styles at the 7th pick, didn't think he was going to be there. Thought there was a low chance. There was a chance, but it was an easy pick when he was there and we were on the clock. So a little bit about Sonny. I think he's a true commander. He is a true commander through and through, and that's what makes one of the many things that makes you smile. And you're going to get an outstanding person in this building, an outstanding competitor, an outstanding football character, everything across the board. And so, first and foremost, a human, great family. I got to meet them at the pro day, and he's just kind of everything you want there as a football player and a guy in your building in your bloodstream. So a little bit about Sonny as a player. I mean, he's huge. He's really it's just amazing. He's 21 years old. He's a young guy. He's just scratching the surface, but he's an elite athlete, elite size, elite length, and he's just scratching the surface of a linebacker. And he's already really good, and he's only going to get better. That's what gave me a lot of confidence too, is that he's going to get better, and we have the people in this building with our coaching staff and support staff to get him there. And then himself, he's the type of person who will reach whatever potential he has. He will reach that potential. He's humble, he's driven, he's just kind of checks every box. Super impressive football intelligence, super impressive just presence, and just everything about him screamed commander. And so as a player, sideline to sideline, he can blitz, he can cover, he can play in the box. He got better as the year went on. He's only been playing linebacker for 2 years, and he got better and better, and he played his best ball at the end of the year. So he's still ascending, and it's fun to watch his progression and just seeing how much better he got and how much better he still can get. You see him playing in the box and using his hands and shedding blocks and reading blocks, and then getting to the ball and playing like physical, like taking on guards, and it got better and better. And then as a blitzer, he got better. And I think he's just scratching the surface there, and he's going to be a great blitzer. And so all those things that come with changing positions, you saw it kind of come to life, and you saw it in the playoffs.
Here with Chris Russell. Chris, to me, they knocked it out of the ballpark with this one.
Yeah, I'm with you, Donna. I mean, I didn't know if he was going to be there, but I did finally settle on air on Team 980 on Thursday several times throughout my show with Kevin Sheehan on Sonny Styles that he would be the pick if he was there. Now, I would have said, the caveat to that for me was Jeremiah Love if he would have wound up, but he, of course, went number 3. So I was very happy, obviously, that I was right and that ultimately it played out that way. The things you love are easy about Sonny Styles. The size, the athleticism, the speed, how he hits like an absolute truck. What you don't know is all the things that Adam Peters was able to share with us. Kind of kid that you want your daughter to marry. Of course he says about everybody, he's a true commander. I don't know what any of that means, but the bottom line is the kind of, kid that you want your daughter to marry grew up in a great family. It's a football family. His dad was obviously in the NFL. His brother's going to get drafted this weekend. They're very close. So or at least you believe that he is mentally mature beyond his years, that he's football IQ. Like I've seen the football IQ on the field. I mean, you go and watch the Texas tape week 1 in Columbus of the college football season against Arch Manning in a new defense under Matt Patricia. That dude is a warrior with his hand signals and his verbal signals, and it all worked out really well for Ohio State that day. And Adam Peters told us he got better and better and better as the season went along. So if you believe in all of that, and the tape would indicate that, right, then he's going to be able to adjust pretty quickly to Durante Jones's system. It looks like they're going to be able to use him in different ways. And I would say probably a year from now, he's probably the main principal Mike in this defense.
Yeah, the great thing about him also, only 2 years as a linebacker, and for him to have those skill sets already, you look at his size, like you talked about. This is a guy, if you saw him in person, you say, wow, this is a football guy. With everything that the Washington Commanders did on defense and free agency, they just ended up making this defense so much better. Look, they drafted a linebacker last year. When you look at the linebacker core that the Commanders have right now, how do you see all these pieces fitting in right now?
Well, so I mean, I do think it'll be interchangeable, and we'll have to see it obviously play out not only in the preseason and whatever we see in preseason games, I should say training camp and whatever we see in preseason games, and then obviously when they start playing games for real. I would imagine it's going to be very chameleon-like, right? Positional versatility seems like a very big thing for Leo Chanel, also for the kid Jordan McGee that they drafted 2 years ago, and of course with Sonny Styles. Think about this, Donna. I don't know if you're going to find a linebacker unit that's got more speed and explosion than this one and those three guys specifically. I mean, Frankie Louvu might have to lose about 50 pounds to keep up with those guys and to run as fast as all three of those guys, because they got some deer running full speed at that linebacker group. Nobody can ever say that this defense is slow, at least in that middle tier and however they deploy them.
Well, one thing about Adam going into this draft and Coach Quinn, they said they wanted to get faster at this position. Faster, bigger, stronger. Well, they just did that. And the thing about Sonny, the way you can play him, great against the run, great against the pass, you can move him around in multiple positions. And the Commanders, to me, just got much better again on defense. Now, when you look at the draft moving forward, as far as the picks that they still have, there's some areas to address. You look at the offensive side of the ball, you still say, hey, we need a wide receiver. Hey, we need a backup center. Will that be some of the areas that the Commanders will look at as they have the fewer picks? You know, what is it, like 5 more to go? They still have some things to address on the other side. But this is funny, Chris, before we go to that question, is Downs was still there. But Sonny was the guy that they really wanted, and you couldn't go wrong with either player. But when you're talking about a linebacker position, that this kind of kid doesn't come along too often, you really had to snag him. And like I said, you couldn't go wrong with either one. But this is, to me, if you're looking at the growth moving forward with this Commander team, you had to get better at the linebacker position, because that is such a tough position.
They still have a pretty big need, in my opinion, at corner. And Adam Peters did admit, surprise, that Mansour Delane was acquired by the Chiefs in a move up from 9 to 6 with Cleveland right before them. And I wonder if the surprise was, hey, man, we were probably looking at Mansour Delane. I don't know that. I just wonder, being that he was willing to share that with us. So that's number one. Definitely got to look at corner over the next couple of days, right? But then you mentioned, of course, the juxtaposition would be going on offense. Center and wide receiver, you would think, would be the two top needs. We knew running back was never a true need, but it was more like, how could you bypass Jeremiah Love? But the bottom line is, I would expect all three of those positions, corner, center, and wide receiver, to be addressed. But remember last year, when everybody thought, we all thought, I think you thought, they needed an edge pass rusher, and they went the entire draft and never signed one, or never picked one. And they had more picks last year. So just because it's a obvious need on paper doesn't always mean we're going to get that.
Nope. It's always the best player on the board at that moment. But we're just in day one out here at Commanders headquarters. So when I look at free agencies so far, and I look at the first pick in the draft, how would you grade the Commanders of where they stand at right now in what they did with free agency and what they did with picking Sonny? To me, they were solid all the way around so far.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you look at how different this team looks from January 7th or January 8th or whenever we finished up the regular season in Philadelphia, I think they've improved in just about every area. The one area that you can, again, call into question would be center, I think. Yes, they haven't absolutely and obviously improved at wide receiver and corner, but they have added veteran depth at both positions. The question is whether they have enough and whether they have a stud, right? So we know that they haven't really added at center yet. Nick Allegretti, I talked to him about a month ago for about a half an hour. He's super smart. He's great. He's a natural center. People don't realize that about him, and I think he's stouter, but I fully would expect in a very good center draft them to add some competition there in this particular weekend ahead, and at the very minimum as an undrafted free agent. But other than that, I think they've added speed, as we talked about, versatility, as we talked about. I think they've added, should say, positional players that have that versatility, but and also have that speed and athleticism that Adam Peters and this staff so covets, but also, again, in most areas. Like if you look at what they did at running back, they didn't stop at Rashad White. They went out and added Jerome Ford. They brought back Jeremy McNichols to add to Bill, and maybe they'll still do something in that area. They didn't stop at one often. They went to maybe even 3 guys that are new or newish to the position group, if you will, that they can add to this roster.
And also what they can add is depth a little bit more, because we talked about that center position. You got to have depth there. You look at some of the other positions glaring at the Commanders, you got to have depth there. But so far, so good. Out here, Commanders headquarters for day one, Donna Hopkins with Chris Russell, and you know how you can listen and hear him. Hey, Chris, what is the time frames that people can snag in and hear you?
Yeah, I appreciate it. 1 to 4 on the Team 980 Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, tune in. Always, we cut up everything, podcasts and all that stuff. We got to get you on, Donna. We got to get you down in studio and hang out so we can chill and have a little bit more time than radio normally allows us. So I appreciate you having me. It's always fun. Obviously the Doc and I, Doc Walker, go at it, and we give each other a little bit of grief one way or the other. He's always picking on me about my New York roots and about things that I'm talking about that are too New York centric, and I'm always picking on him because, well, he's the Doc, but we have a lot of fun.
And Doc is LA, so he's got that little swagger and everything. But you know what? The funny thing about what we heard before Adam Peters finished, they said, hey, what does, Jaden Daniels say about the pick and everything? He said, you all already know that, but he's happy also that they got Sonny. So sign it out here, Donna Hopkins, Pro Football Plus.
But when you look at Sonny, you had a chance to talk to him beyond just who he is as a player, but that conversation with him as the person, what did you see most out of him as who he is, that person?
He is an outstanding young man, and but the words I would just kind of he's mature beyond his years, I think, and he's very curious. He wants to know what the great ones do. He wants to be great. He's really humble, and he's very driven. And so those things made us all really confident that he's going to reach his ceiling.